What are you doing in this neighborhood? You don't look like you belong here.
I was at a job interview, officer. I have every right to be here.
Step out of the vehicle. Now, we need to search your car.
I respectfully decline the search. What violation am I being stopped for?
Step out of the vehicle. You're being uncooperative and suspicious.
I'm not being uncooperative. I asked what law I violate, officer.
You're resisting lawful orders. That's obstruction. Last chance to comply voluntarily.
Under arrest for resisting. Get your hands where I can see them.
I'm not resisting. I'm complying. Please, I'm not fighting you. Stop resisting.
You assaulted an officer.
Going away for a long time, boy.
I didn't assault anyone. My name is Leonard Whitmore. Remember that name.
Shut your mouth.
You don't get to talk back to us. Leonard Whitmore. That's my name. Make sure you remember it.
On a quiet Friday afternoon in Riverside County, 3 veteran police officers made a decision that would destroy their careers, disgrace their department, and cost taxpayers $6 million. They saw a young black man driving through their patrol zone and decided he looked suspicious. What they didn't know was that this wasn't just any citizen they were about to brutalize on camera. This was someone whose father had the power to ensure they'd never wear a badge again. Officer Devin Hartley, Officer Kane Murphy, and Officer Greg Lansing thought they were dealing with an easy target, a routine stop, a chance to flex their authority on someone they assumed had no recourse. They were wrong on every count. What unfolded on that Bodycam footage would become a textbook case of racial profiling, excessive force, and instant karma. The young man they slammed against that patrol car bonnet didn't just survive their attack. He made sure the whole world saw exactly what kind of officers were patrolling American streets. At this moment, I want to pause and connect with you, our amazing viewers. Your support fuels everything we do here, and we're genuinely grateful you clicked on this video. So, here's my question for you. Where in the world are you watching this story unfold? Are you in Texas, Toronto, London, Sydney? Drop your city or country in the comments right now. And if this is your first time here, do us a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button and smash the like. Trust me, you'll want to be here for stories like this. Now, let's get into how these 3 officers went from feeling invincible to facing the fight of their lives. It was March 15th, just after 3 in the afternoon. 24-year-old Leonard Whitmore was driving his silver Honda Accord through the tree-lined streets of Maplewood Estates, a predominantly white suburb on the outskirts of Riverside County. He was on his way home from a job interview, dressed in a button-down shirt and slacks, feeling optimistic about his future. The music was low. His seatbelt was fastened. His registration was current. He had no reason to expect what was coming. Officer Devin Hartley spotted the Honda from his patrol car and noticed the driver was black. In a neighborhood where that was rare, it was enough to catch his attention. He radioed Officers Kane Murphy and Greg Lansing, who were patrolling nearby. Within minutes, all 3 squad cars were tailing Leonard's vehicle. They claimed later that his rear license plate light was dim. That was the official reason for the stop. The real reason was written all over their faces the moment Leonard rolled down his window. Leonard pulled over calmly when the lights flashed behind him. He placed both hands on the steering wheel, just as his father had taught him years ago. 3 officers approached his vehicle from different angles. Hartley came to the driver's side window. Murphy positioned himself near the passenger door. Lansing stood back with his hand hovering near his weapon. Their body language wasn't cautious. It was aggressive. Hartley asked for license and registration. Leonard provided both without hesitation. His voice was steady and respectful. But Hartley didn't just take the documents and walk back to his cruiser like protocol required. Instead, he leaned closer to the window and asked Leonard what he was doing in this neighborhood. Leonard explained he'd been at a job interview. Hartley smirked and exchanged a glance with Murphy. They didn't believe him. The tone had already shifted. What should have been a 2-minute interaction was turning into something else entirely.
and Leonard could feel it. Hartley handed Leonard's license back, but didn't step away from the car. Instead, he asked if Leonard had anything illegal in the vehicle. Leonard said no. Hartley asked if he could search the car anyway. Leonard knew his rights. He politely declined. That refusal changed everything. Murphy walked around to the driver's side and joined Hartley. Both officers now stood at Leonard's window, staring him down. Lansing activated his chest-mounted body cam, though none of them mentioned it. They asked Leonard to step out of the vehicle. He asked why. They repeated the command, louder this time. Leonard remained calm but firm. He told them he had done nothing wrong and asked what law he had violated that required him to exit his car. That question made Hartley angry. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone he'd already decided was beneath him. He raised his voice and accused Leonard of being uncooperative. Murphy chimed in, suggesting Leonard was hiding something. Lansing moved closer, his hand still near his holster. The three of them were building a narrative in real time, one that had nothing to do with a dim license plate light. Leonard felt his pulse quicken, but kept his composure. He repeated that he would comply with lawful orders, but wanted to know what he was being accused of. His confidence unsettled them. They expected fear. They expected submission. Instead, they got a young man who understood his rights and wasn't afraid to assert them. That made him dangerous in their eyes. Hartley reached for the door handle. Leonard instinctively placed his hand on the door from the inside to keep it closed. That single movement gave them the excuse they needed. Hartley shouted that Leonard was resisting. Murphy yelled for him to show his hands. Lansing radioed for backup, claiming they had a hostile suspect. Within seconds, the situation had spiraled from a traffic stop into a confrontation that was about to turn violent. Leonard knew what was coming next, and there was nothing he could do to stop it.
Hartley yanked the car door open with force. Before Leonard could even unbuckle his seatbelt, Murphy grabbed his left arm and pulled him halfway out of the vehicle. Leonard tried to explain that he was complying, but his words meant nothing now. Lansing rushed forward and grabbed his other arm. Together they dragged him out of the Honda and onto the pavement. Leonard didn't resist. He went limp, trying to show he wasn't a threat. But the officers weren't interested in de-escalation. Hartley barked orders for Leonard to stop resisting, even though he wasn't. Murphy twisted Leonard's arm behind his back with excessive force. Lansing pressed his knee into Leonard's shoulder blade. The body cam captured every second of it. The angle showed a young man face down on the asphalt, with 3 grown officers overpowering him. They hauled Leonard to his feet and marched him toward Hartley's patrol car. His shirt was torn. His knees were scraped from the pavement. He asked them again what he was being arrested for. Hartley told him to shut up. Murphy accused him of assaulting an officer, a complete fabrication. Lansing tightened the handcuffs until they cut into Leonard's wrists. Then came the moment that would define the entire case. Hartley shoved Leonard forward and slammed him chest first onto the hood of the patrol car. The impact was brutal. Leonard's face smashed against the hot metal. Murphy held his head down while Lansing kept his arms pinned. Hartley leaned in close and whispered something the body cam didn't pick up clearly, but Leonard heard every word. It was a threat meant to remind him of his place. Leonard didn't cry out. He didn't curse. He didn't give them any additional ammunition. He simply turned his head to the side, stared directly into Lansing's body cam, and said his full name clearly. Leonard Whitmore. He repeated it twice. He wanted there to be no confusion about who he was when this footage was reviewed. The officers laughed. They thought his defiance was pathetic. They had no idea that name was about to haunt them.
They loaded Leonard into the back of Hartley's cruiser and drove him to the Riverside County Police Department headquarters. The ride was silent, except for the occasional radio chatter. Leonard sat in the back seat with his head against the window, replaying everything that had just happened. He wasn't thinking about revenge. He was thinking about how his father had warned him this day might come. No matter how educated you are, no matter how respectful you behave, some people will only see your skin color. His father had been right. At the station, they pulled Leonard out of the car and walked him through the back entrance. Other officers glanced their way but didn't ask questions.
Hartley, Murphy, and Lansing were riding high on adrenaline. They joked with each other about the arrest. Murphy said something about teaching the kid a lesson. Lansing mentioned writing up the report to justify the use of force. They had done this before. They knew how to make the paperwork match their version of events. They brought Leonard to the booking area and sat him down on a metal bench. A desk sergeant approached to process the intake. He asked for the suspect's name. Leonard spoke clearly. Leonard Whitmore. The sergeant paused. He looked at Leonard more carefully, then glanced at the three officers. He asked them to repeat the last name. Hartley said it again, annoyed by the interruption. Whitmore. The desk sergeant's expression changed instantly. He asked if Leonard was related to Chief Raymond Whitmore. The room went silent. Leonard looked up and locked eyes with Hartley. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The answer was written all over the sergeant's face. Chief Raymond Whitmore had been appointed just 2 weeks earlier. He was the department's first black police chief, brought in specifically to reform a department plagued by complaints of racial bias and excessive force. His appointment had been controversial among the older officers who resented the change. And now, 3 of those officers had just brutalized his son on camera. Hartley felt his stomach drop. Murphy's face went pale. Lansing stood frozen, realizing the body cam footage he'd captured was about to end all 3 of their careers. They had walked straight into a nightmare of their own making.
Chief Raymond Whitmore arrived at the station within the hour. He didn't rush. He didn't make a scene. He walked through the front doors in full uniform, his face completely unreadable. Officers stepped aside as he made his way to the booking area. When he saw his son sitting on that bench, handcuffed and bruised, something flickered in his eyes. But he didn't let emotion take over. He was a father, yes, but he was also a police chief who had just been handed undeniable proof of exactly what was wrong with his department. He ordered the handcuffs removed from Leonard immediately. He requested the body cam footage from all 3 officers. Lansing hesitated, knowing what it contained, but he had no choice. Within an hour, Raymond sat in his office reviewing every frame. He watched his son get profiled. He watched him assert his rights. He watched 3 officers fabricate a reason to brutalize him, and he watched them laugh about it afterward. Raymond didn't make the decision alone. He called in the district attorney, the Internal Affairs Division, and an independent review board. The footage was analyzed frame by frame. Legal experts confirmed what everyone already knew. There was no legitimate reason for the stop to escalate. Leonard had broken no laws. The officers had violated protocol at every turn. Their actions weren't just unprofessional, they were criminal. Hartley, Murphy, and Lansing were suspended immediately. Within 3 weeks, all 3 were terminated. Criminal charges followed: assault, false imprisonment, deprivation of rights under color of law. They hired lawyers and tried to claim they were following procedure, but the body cam footage destroyed every defense. No jury would side with them after seeing what they had done. Leonard filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the 3 officers and the department. The case didn't go to trial. The city's legal team knew they would lose spectacularly if that footage played in open court. They settled for $6 million. The money wasn't the point for Leonard. It never had been. The point was accountability. The point was making sure what happened to him couldn't be swept under the rug, like it had been for so many others. Chief Whitmore used the case to overhaul department policies: mandatory bias training, stricter oversight of traffic stops, severe penalties for officers who failed to de-escalate. He made it clear that the culture of impunity was over. Some officers welcomed the changes, others quietly retired or transferred to departments where they could continue operating the old way. Leonard went on to finish his degree in criminal justice. He now works as a civil rights attorney, representing people who've experienced exactly what he survived. He carries the scars from that day, both visible and invisible, but he also carries the knowledge that he didn't stay silent. He didn't let them win. Hartley, Murphy, and Lansing never worked in law enforcement again. Their names became synonymous with everything wrong with policing in America. They lost their badges, their pensions, and their reputations. All because they saw a young black man and decided he didn't deserve respect. So, here's the question I'll leave you with. Do you think justice was truly served, or should the consequences have been even harsher? What would you have done in Leonard's position? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if the story moved you, if it made you think, do us a favor and share it. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Stories like this need to be told, and your support makes sure we can keep bringing them to you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.